What if I told you there's a mathematical code hidden all around us? I mean, right in plain sight. It's a code so powerful it's quietly shaping our world, from how the stock market moves to the way artificial intelligence is actually designed. So let's go find it. And look, this isn't just some abstract theoretical thing. We're talking about a system that Wall Street traders and financial billionaires are actively using right now to try and predict what the market's going to do next. And get this, the very same logic is being used by giant tech companies to build the AI that's, increasingly running our lives. It's like a blueprint for growth, for power. But here's the part that's going to blow your mind. This exact code, this tool that feels so modern, was embedded with incredible accuracy into massive stone temples over 1,000 years ago, way, way before the Western world ever claimed to have discovered it. So that's the big question we're digging into today. How in the world did they do that without any computers? And maybe even more important, why did they do it? What did they know that we've somehow forgotten? Okay, so first things first, let's just lock in how unbelievably relevant this ancient code is in our world today. Seriously, it is everywhere. Wall Street analysts use these Fibonacci ratios to try and forecast market highs and lows. Tech companies use its principles to design efficient systems. AI developers are even modeling learning patterns on it. And of course, architects still use it to design buildings that are both beautiful and structurally sound. So the main takeaway here is this is not just some dusty piece of history. It is a living, breathing tool of power and influence today. So, how do we get from the trading floors in New York all the way to the sacred temples of ancient India? Well, to get that, we need to understand the code itself. It's called the Fibonacci sequence. And honestly, it's super simple. You start with 0 and 1, and then you just add the last two numbers to get the next one. That's it. 1 plus 1 is 2, 1 plus 2 is 3, 2 plus 3 is 5, and on and on. But hidden inside this really simple pattern is something kind of magical. You see, if you take any number in that sequence and divide it by the one right before it, the answer gets closer and closer to this number, 1.618. You might have heard of it, the golden ratio. It's this fundamental number that just shows up all over the universe, in the spirals of galaxies, in the structure of our DNA, even in hurricanes. And, as it turns out, in ancient stone. Now, the history books we all read usually credit the discovery to a 13th century Italian mathematician, Leonardo of Pisa, Fibonacci. But the actual evidence on the ground tells a very different story. In ancient India, this sequence was already well known. They called it Matra Meru, and they weren't just writing it down in a book. Oh no, they were building with it. Just look at the Brihadeeswarar Temple. It was finished way back in the year 1010. When modern researchers came in and measured its proportions, the ratio of its base to its height, the layers of the tower, they kept finding that same number, the golden ratio, 1.618, over and over and over again. And you might think, okay, maybe that one temple is just a coincidence. But it's not. The famous stone wheels at the Konark Sun Temple, their spokes and diameters use Fibonacci ratios. The Kandariya Mahadeva Temple uses the sequence in its spires to create this incredible optical illusion that they just stretch on forever. This was no accident. It was a deliberate, highly sophisticated architectural language used for centuries all across the subcontinent. Which, of course, leads us to the real question here. I mean, it's one thing to know what they did, but we have to understand why. Why would you go to all this incredible trouble to build a mathematical code into these gigantic structures? And sure, buildings that use the golden ratio are beautiful. We're naturally drawn to them. But the people who designed these temples, they had a much deeper purpose in mind. This was not just about making things look nice. This was about psychology. It turns out modern neuroscience is just now catching up to this ancient idea. Studies are showing that when we stand in spaces built with these proportions, our brains literally react. We feel awe, we feel a sense of calm, and even a feeling of submission. These temples weren't just buildings. They were instruments designed to influence people, to shape their emotional and spiritual state. Kings had armies, for sure, but they also ruled with architecture. The ancient temple architects, the Sthapatis, they followed these ancient texts called the Shilpa Shastras. And their design rules were all about stability, about aligning the building with the cosmos, creating an emotional feeling. Now, compare that to today's designers in finance and tech. They're using the same core math, but their goal is totally different. It's all about user engagement, scaling platforms, and just infinite growth. Two very different mindsets using the exact same code. So if this knowledge was so advanced and so widespread, where did it go? Why did the world just forget? And why was history rewritten to give credit to someone else hundreds of years later? Well, it's a story of conquest and loss, really. For centuries after these temples were built, a series of invasions and then colonial rule led to the destruction of universities and libraries. Knowledge that was passed down from person to person was just lost. By the 20th century, the global story had completely changed, putting Europe at the center of all advanced math. It wasn't until the 2000s, when we got new laser scanning tech, that we could finally prove just how incredibly precise these ancient builders were. And if you need one final undeniable piece of proof of their genius, get this. Modern engineers have figured out that the balanced proportions in these temples naturally distribute stress from earthquakes. It makes them unbelievably resilient. In fact, many of them are tougher against earthquakes than our own modern steel and concrete buildings. Their ancient math is literally protecting them better than our modern engineering. Okay, so this brings everything full circle. Because rediscovering this code isn't just about setting the history books straight. It seems the builders left us a message, a kind of warning for the future. Remember, the Fibonacci sequence isn't a static thing. It's a rule for growth. It describes the fundamental way things expand, whether you're talking about a population of animals, money compounding in an account, or the way a tech platform scales up. And right there, got's the danger. The ancient architects seem to understand that growth needs balance. But our modern systems, in finance and technology, they're all chasing infinite, unbalanced growth. And what both history and math show us is that this kind of unchecked growth, it always follows the exact same cycle. A really fast rise, a very short peak, and then a catastrophic collapse. This is the final warning from the temples, literally carved into their foundations. They understood that growth without balance, it always leads to collapse. That having power without wisdom is only temporary. These architects built their creations to last, to be in harmony, not to just aggressively expand until they shattered. So today, here we are, using the exact same mathematical code they perfected, but maybe without their wisdom. The temples have stood for 1,000 years. They've been silent witnesses to empires rising and falling. The stones are still there. So the real question is, are we going to listen to what they're trying to tell us?